What's up, everyone? It's BRAP. It's Wednesday. You can tell I'm enthusiastic right now. Enthused, I guess. I don't know. What's up? What's up, everyone? Welcome to BRAP. Happy to be back. Another week. It's hump day, the middle of the week. We're almost at the weekend here, which means we'll have plenty of time to do some more gaming. And big shout out to everyone in the live chat, by the way. Thank each and every one of you for dropping by and hanging out with us this evening. See some of the usual suspects in the live chat. Please do me a favor. I dropped the link in the live chat. Please retweet. Put it on Facebook, Instagram. I don't care. Do a TikTok video. Just let everyone know we're live. We got a lot to talk about. Sorry we're late, by the way. We were talking. We're having a conversation of some PC-related stuff. Actually, my PC and how the fan and cooling and everything set up. So I don't know. We may talk about that off air, but after we get off the show. But anyhow, all right. I want to introduce the panel. We have returning guests. He was here last week, and I wanted to bring him back because there's one particular topic that I thought he had some great insight with, and we'll talk about that. And that is Xbox gamers having temper tantrums, being angry over U.S. Senator Elizabeth Warren's remarks. We'll talk about that. That was very fascinating to see people come to the defense, do pro bono legal work for $1 trillion corporation. It's amazing. But we got Game Logic back with us. What's up, Game Logic?
So much, man. Always happy to be here to defend the Sony nation. We also got people upset about the feeling that Sony San Diego is deliberately nerfing MLB.
Oh, yes, I did see that. Yes, I did see that. Yes. We also had diehard PlayStation fans at one point asking Joe Biden to stop the acquisition of Microsoft of Activision. So who knew that gamers were political activists, right? Didn't know that. But anyhow, no, you're right, Game Logic. We did have some of that nerfing conversation, which I thought, by the way, was actually, your response was actually very insightful. I didn't even think about that, but we can talk about a little bit about that too. But great to have you back, man. Then we got my man. Let me tell you something. This guy is a natural at Souls games. If you've never seen him stream a Souls game, he plays Elden Ring blindfolded. We got Slow-Mo Backslap. What's up, Slow-Mo?
You would think I play it blindfolded the way. No, seriously. What's up, man? It's doing pretty good. Tomorrow's gonna be a little rough for me tomorrow. Burying my friend. But other than
man, I'm
that,
sorry to hear that again, man. Condolences, Slow-Mo. Sorry, man.
It's been a little bit rough week, but I've been trying my best to kind of distract myself from the serious stuff by thinking about all the funny arguments that continue to keep happening in this gaming community. So I appreciate everyone for all the foolishness over the past week. It's been great.
Yeah, there's always foolishness. There's always things to entertain us on the internets. But no, man, great to have you here, man. We missed you last week, so look forward to picking your brain, discussing some of these topics. Then we also got my man.
Cool, man.
Yeah, we also got my man B Money. What's up, B?
What's going on?
Are you guys hoisting the trophy this year, man? What's going on with Chicago, man?
Nah, man, no trophy this year. But I'm excited, man. The Bulls are in the playoffs. It's been 5 years,
but no trophy.
No trophy this year, man. Our point guard is injured, man. He's out for the year. So hopefully, Lonzo comes back stronger than ever next year. And maybe make a couple moves, maybe get Vooch out of there. But I'm excited, man. It's been 5 years since the Bulls have been in the playoffs. Hopefully we get that Celtics matchup in the first round. I feel like that's probably our best chance to advance. I think that'll be a great matchup. So I'm pretty excited, man. 2 more games left after today, and we head to the playoffs. So let's get it.
No doubt, man. No doubt. So it's just that time of year. Playoffs are starting. I think NBA. I think the NHL is playoffs. If you watch NHL, anyone, I think that's starting soon, or maybe it's already started. But exciting time of the year for sure. But let's talk about some video games here. Remedy, wow, Remedy announces a remake of Max Payne 1 and 2 for the PC, PlayStation 5, and Xbox series consoles. And I gotta say, like, B, let me ask you, did you hear anything about this, man? Do you any I know you hear things. So did you do you have any inclination this was happening, or?
Yeah, I knew this was coming. I was talking to a couple of people from 2K over the past month or so. So I knew this was coming. I just didn't know when exactly it was going to be announced. So it's exciting because you know what I mean, so many gamers have never even had the chance to experience that. You know what I mean? Like if you started playing, you know, games that and 360 generation or just started playing like last gen, like you have no idea what Max Payne is. You know what I mean? Like you may have heard about it and you know, some people may have went back to touch it, but you know what I mean? For what those games meant to us at that time, like those were pretty major games. You know what I mean? They really kind of changed the landscape of what we thought of what gaming could be. You know what I mean? With that bullet time and slow down.
To say, yeah, that bullet
mechanics.
time was very innovative at that time. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm excited. Hopefully, you know, Max Payne 3 is right around the corner, but you know, to have those first two games, have that story retold, I think it's gonna be big for them.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, Slow-Mo, you mentioned bullet time. I mean, that was at that time, and that was really,
it was mind blowing.
Yeah, I mean, like slow motion, right?
Right, we was just like, what? They could doing this?
Yeah.
It's like a movie, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I told you guys in DM that I had heard something similar.
Yeah, you
to
did,
this,
yeah.
but it was actually I had spoken with the person that told me that it was actually something different. So look, Remedy is super busy. Like
Yes, they are.
because they've got with these two games now in development, these remasters, they've got like 6 games in development right now. So like, and you would think like, wow, like I mean, Remedy's a big developer, but like, how can you make 6 games? How are you working on 6 games all at once? And I mean, look, their workflow is so some developers are able to handle that amount of load, and some aren't. Clearly, and Remedy.
Oh,
What? Look, what I'm saying is that
I know.
I'm not taking a shot at anybody. I'm just saying,
No,
like,
no, that's okay.
It's a fact of the gaming industry. Some can do that and some can't.
Slow-Mo,
Now, I'm not necessarily saying that Remedy all 6 of these games that Remedy are making are going to be like AAA bangers or anything like that. Clearly,
Slow-Mo,
the work they did on Crossfire X wasn't all that great, right? But
no,
they've got a multiplayer game they're working on with Tencent. They've got Control 2 that's being published by 505 Games. They've got the Alan Wake 2 sequel that Epic is publishing. All of these are going to be big games for them. So to see that they're working on those and they're doing these remasters, I think that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, and by the way, you know, you said you're not taking a shot at anyone. I mean, look, I think pointing out facts, right? Like if you were to say, "Hey, Enrique, Dan Snyder's a shit owner," that's not taking a shot. That's just a fact. He's a shit owner.
He's the worst owner in professional sports. Yeah,
turn my mic down
far.
Here. Yeah,
he's the. I don't think there's a single. There's a single sports franchise owner in professional sports that's worse than Dan Snyder.
Yeah, he's pretty. Yeah, he's pretty bad. I mean, you know, it's yeah. So that's my point. Like, you know, when you say stuff like that, it's not taking a shot. I mean, sometimes some people are just better at doing things. I mean, that's you could find examples of that across the board. You know, like Slow-Mo's better at FPS shooters than I am. I mean, it just is what it is, right? I mean, you know, yeah. So
I guess stop don't say things like that, Enrique.
I mean, look, dude. I played Halo with you, bruh. Let me tell you, I had to be on the other team, man. I saw Slow-Mo. I was running.
Oh my God! Stop. We gotta stop.
I got look, man. I got the Warthog. I was like, "Where's the Warthog? I'm out of here. Let's go." It's Slow-Mo. I was like the Covenant. The demon's here.
Oh my God! Stop. Yeah. All right. Move on. Let's get back to Remedy.
Yeah. So.
No. I'm actually looking forward to what they have in store, and some developers, all they really needed was the confidence of a publisher to allow them to flourish. And like you could take like a decade ago, Remedy wasn't getting all these opportunities like they are now. You know, like they were working exclusively with Xbox, with Microsoft Studios, but I think over that time, especially with Control, they kind of proved that they were able to deliver a certain kind of experience that people would enjoy, even though it didn't sell that great, but it was a quality title, you know. And I think another publisher looks at that and says, you know what, maybe with a few tweaks here, maybe with some better marketing, we can get, you know, some massive sales out of their next project. So I you know, hats off to them. I'm really looking forward to see, especially Control 2, because I enjoy Control. Although I thought the story was a little bit all over the place. Maybe that was just me, but I'm looking forward to what they got going on. I heard that Alan Wake 2 is going to be more on the side of like horror or like trying to scare the crap out of you, which is not going to be my jam. But like for everyone that loved Alan Wake, that's going to be something they're really going to be looking forward to too.
Yeah, no doubt, man, no doubt. Game Logic. I don't know if you played Max Payne, but if you did or have, what are your thoughts, man?
My favorite game of all time.
Really?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All time. Okay. So
Yeah,
you're
it's
really
just-
hyped for this.
Yeah, I mean, any hype that I ever have for a game is always tempered because, you know, software failures do happen. That's what I spend a lot of my time studying. So, I mean, any one of these things is, you know, it has the potential to be, you know, a major problem. Yeah, I mean, it's just a certain time in my life, kind of at the, I hate to say it myself, it's kind of the turn of the century, early 2000s, but there've only really been, well, I mean, Max Payne is really the only game that I've ever like paid attention to from the very first time that I saw it all the way through its development pipeline and all of the like pre-release stories and all that. So I mean, a few of my questions are, I will be nostalgic for it, but you know, just like I am with any release that's coming out on the market, right? I try and put the eye on it of, you know, how is it going to suit everyone else? And sure, you know, there's a good chance that I will play it, but like that noir comic book interstitial style between the action chapters, I just don't know if that will play in 2022. Particularly with, you know, the generations behind us. One of the things that's interesting, of course, is, you know, we should note that it is the way this was announced is that these are remakes, as far as I understand it, not remasters.
Yeah.
So
I did say remasters before. I meant remakes. Yeah. Go
oh
ahead.
no, I took your remasters as like a reference. So I'm not really saying, you know, what you said about it, but just to make sure it's clear for everyone else.
Yeah.
So
because there's I agree with you, because there's a definite difference between a remake and a remaster. A remaster is kind of like, we're not changing really anything with the game. They're just kind of trying to modernize the visual aspect of it and maybe
Not
a
Chrono
couple
Cross.
extra things here. Yeah, definitely not Chrono Cross. But basically, it's the same game that you played back in the day. A remake should be a little bit more work put into it, like completely from the ground up remade. Of course, it would look the same as far as like the design of certain things, but like what you were complaining about, what you were concerned about, that kind of stuff should be modernized in a remake.
right.
So that it works for 2020 whenever this comes out, and not like people like, man, them controls was really dated. You know, like that's kind of what you hear from a remaster than a remake.
Yeah. And I think, so from a control aspect, at least on PC, I think the controls for Max Payne are still good even today. I don't know what they'll do about controllers. It'll be interesting to see what they do, you know, with the sorry, I gave up my PS5. What are your guys' controller things called? The
DualSense, man.
DualSense.
We're gonna have to pull your gaming credentials here, Game Logic.
PS5, you about to get linked by this chat. Good luck, sir.
So I would expect that they would do something innovative, you know, with that controller set. And I think, you know, my first knee jerk when I saw this headline was, I don't know. And again, I don't know how that plays from a cost perspective on the market. So it's good to see that the release is going to be both Max Payne 1 and 2. I think those stories go really well together if you play them kind of as a continuous set. So it'll be interesting if they do that. The one creative concern then that I have is being that these are remakes, is that this is leaving Rockstar in the mix, who took over when they went to Max Payne 3. And Max Payne 3 is a decent game. I don't have as much adoration for that style as I had for the originals. So I just worry a little bit that we're going to get remakes that are built kind of in that Max Payne 3 style, which I think doesn't map as well to the original story. And then, if we wind up with this thing that is significantly different from Max Payne 1 and 2 in visual style and presentation and story narrative, if it loses the noir aspect to it, because Max Payne 3 kind of dropped that.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing that would be worrisome. So if we get Max Payne GTA like that, that's the thing that's going to be concerning to me, at least. I mean, it might play well for a new generation who maybe has more, adoration for kind of GTA and GTA Live. So it'll be interesting to see how it turns out.
Do you think, because they said in this announcement in the that this is like to investors, to their investors, that this is being developed as a single title, a single multi-platform title that will be all like current gen, no cross gen stuff. This is strictly on the Xbox Series consoles, PS5 and PC.
Better not be $70.
Probably, yeah.
No, better not be $70. Greedy devs, they make money, record revenues. Come on.
Combine a remake of two games combined with one being published by Rockstar. It's going to be $70.
Might have some NTX in it too.
Come on, man. Y'all know my man Crops ain't playing with y'all. Open up that wallet, man.
It's not even a question.
He said open your wallet,
man.
If it sticks with the same stories, right, roughly, we're lengthwise, that's a good size. To me, that's like a 15, 16 hour, right, of story.
Yeah.
So, it seems like the right amount of content for, this wave that we have of people who kind of want smaller games, which I don't disagree with. A narrative that gets too far up above 25 or 30 hours is problematic for me. So it's a nice, I think it'll be a nice slice out on the market as far as offering some differentiation. But just the stylistic approach is a thing that will concern me. We should also note that as of last year, Remedy was opening an additional studio in Sweden. So that might be what helps them out in some of that capacity. And I'll be interested to see as these things go on. I need to pull this thread. If this is all studios developing all on the same engine, that gives them some economies of scale and some ability to have teams at different sites support different project teams, kind of like Ubisoft is able to do. And so that might be an interesting development story to hear too.
They also have multiple support studios that help them as well. And additionally, I forgot, I think it's called XDev. I think it's the support studio that does a lot of the cinematic work for Sony. For Sony first party studios is also a studio that they have dealings with, so that they could potentially be helping them out as well. It's just that most game development projects have a support studio too that's helping a main developer get the job done, and Remedy is no different from that. I think my only real concern for Remedy itself is that I'm looking at this press release here into their investors, and they talk about the agreement, which this is kind of information I guess that they normally wouldn't say, but since this is supposed to be to investors, they're letting investors know. But Remedy has a royalty opportunity after Rockstar Games has recouped its development, marketing, and other costs for distributing and publishing the game. That kind of reminds me of some of these horror stories that we hear from developers about how, for example, with Square Enix, with a lot of the games that they published from studios that aren't studios that they own, from Platinum with Nier Automata. People Can Fly with Outriders, where months and months after the game has launched and had some degree of success, the developer still hasn't been paid because it didn't reach a certain amount of money to pay back marketing, development costs, and all that other stuff. And like that's a lot of work to put in for for it to come out and a year later you still trying to get paid. You still
Yeah.
hoping that like and we know how sales are. After 90 days, you never really recoup the same clip of sales clip that you were doing initially. So like some of these companies know the writing on the wall. Like we're never going to get paid for this, and that's really unfortunate.
Yeah, I'm really surprised that they're getting back in bed with 505 games again after all that kind of chicanery around Control.
I know, like 505 and throwing them under the bus and charging for the next gen upgrades the way they did. They basically forced people to buy the game over again at like $40. That was pretty egregious in my opinion. Especially when a lot of that stuff, it was like even on PC, right? On PC, they were like, here's Control, was it Ultimate Edition? I think it was called. I'm like, there's not why? Like all it was just because on PC all that stuff was already available. DLSS, ray tracing, all that stuff was already there at launch. All you did was just relaunch the same title with the DLC included in it. And I'm like, that people not really buying this.
And I'm not saying this to take a shot at anyone. I'm just saying it because I think that it's true. At the time when they said that, they had a very effective PR cover in terms of the way Sony was doing things. That, quite frankly, I don't think that they caught a ton of heat and a lot of attention for this because there were so many things going on with Sony and kind of how it was handling pricing and structuring of deals going into next gen.
Agreed. Yeah, because what 505 did was way worse than even worse than Take-Two when it comes to 2K. Because like I think what was it like in order to get the next gen version, you had to buy the top like edition that year.
Edition.
Yeah, but like that's people were gonna buy that anyway because y'all want that VC, right?
Sure.
So like that wasn't even that big a deal, but like for 505 to not even give people who already bought Control some kind of like discount, like make it $10 or something. like no nothing. No, hey, I bought the game and all the DLC already. Well, thank you. Now rebuy it again to get ray tracing. Right.
Yeah, and I have to admit, I feel like I gave him a pass too about not being too wrapped around the axle about that. I didn't rebuy the game, but knowing that sales were not huge the first time around, but there was a significant amount of upfront investment, I could kind of understand the need to try and get healthy, right, in selling through on the second time around when the game had won Game of the Year and had its
was nominated for Game of the Year.
I think I saw it in some publications they won. I mean, they may not have won the VGAs, but I thought in some publications and stuff they actually won.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
So I'll Google that while you guys are talking. But so I can understand the need to kind of recoup that while they were on a wave of high popularity and notoriety and awareness of the title, because I think the way the title came out, I don't know that every gamer paid attention to it.
It definitely never charted on any sales charts that I'm aware of at all, not even the first month or anything. But like this is very similar to People Can Fly and Square Enix. Square Enix took the bag to get Outriders on launch in Game Pass, but then the way they cooked the books, that upfront money they got from Game Pass from Microsoft did not go towards sales at all, even though like people were able to play this game without actually having to buy it. So that also kind of like could have potentially impacted People Can Fly's ability to actually get their royalties sooner rather than later. Likewise with 505 Games and Control and Remedy, initially it was an exclusive for I think 6 months for the Epic Game Store, and they got 10 million for that. That was like a third of their development costs. I think development costs, they said, was roughly anywhere between 27 and 32 million to develop the game. They got a third of that right off the break just by having an exclusive in Epic Game Store for 6 months. And then it went to PS Now, and then it went to Game Pass. So they got some stuff, some money just off of just putting it into services or making it timed exclusive on PC. So like, even if it didn't sell that great, I think they came out and said that they were good. So I guess maybe 505 didn't treat them the way Square Enix treated People Can Fly, and actually gave them some kind of credit or something for the game going into certain services or time exclusive stuff and all that.
Just to sort of revise what I said, so they were nominated for Game of the Year. The thing that they did win, probably their highest point of notoriety, was they did win Action Game of the Year in the DICE Awards. But otherwise they just got several. They did get a Critics' Choice Award of the Golden Joystick Awards, and they got several other kind of technical awards throughout the 7 or 8 different game awards circuit.
I mean, that's well deserved. The Northlight engine is awesome. It's very, very CPU intensive with the physics and everything, with the way you can just destroy things and stuff, like falls naturally. Like, we go into an office and destroy a desk, and the papers will like explode and then fall like they will fall realistically. Things break apart and look awesome, and then you can pick up chunks of things and throw it. That engine's just awesome. So it makes sense it would win. Kind of like technical awards and stuff like that. But
right. The last thing I'll mention is one of the upsides for Remedy is that, unlike most development studios of their size, they are as you mentioned, they are a publicly traded company. So
yeah,
even we don't know the entire financial story, but it's very possible that even on the back end, when they have deals where with publishers where they may not necessarily come out great, they may still ride an influx of cash off of how they're performing on the market, when again their title that they're working on breaks notoriety and popularity, and they get a lot of publicity around it, because that turns investors' eyes in their direction, and they have actually been performing very well from a financial investment perspective.
Yeah. Enrique, you fall asleep?
Oh no, I was on mute. I was talking. I was like, "Oh, that's great points, everyone." I was like, "Yeah, I was on mute. Sorry about that." Yeah, you know what? To real quick, kind of put a bow on this real quick. The Game Launch, great point. That that noir, storytelling aspect of the game. I wonder how if that's gonna work, right? If that's gonna work, for this game in 2020, whatever, when it releases. I liked it. I thought that
you'll
worked
get
well.
a lot of people. I mean, like Logic.
It is like a comic. Yeah, go ahead.
Like the nostalgia. This is a popular IP, right? So this is like,
that's
I think
a
lot of older gamers are going to pick this up because of that nostalgia factor, and then you're going to get some newer gamers that might actually check it out, especially if as a remake they actually modernize some features of it to make it more attractive to a younger generation.
Yeah. It's gonna be interesting. But look, again, I'm excited. I'll be playing this on PC though. I'll just leave it at that.
It should be played. I lied. I said it was gonna be last night. The one thing I will say, I'm with you, Slow-Mo. When we talk about remakes, like, I always want modernization. I always want quality of life things, like things that kept me from actually playing the game because they were a pain the first time out. Like, I want those things modernized and fixed. Right. What I do not want in this game, a la Rockstar and modern game, like, while I'm fine with it in new games, this is my one time, and I'm being a total hypocrite. This is my one time where I will say, please do not inject progression systems and lots of inventory management and loot into this game.
Yeah,
don't kind of leave it the way it was.
Well, didn't you?
Hopefully not.
You had to manage like your pills to heal yourself, bullets, stuff like that, right? I mean, it was
yeah, but it wasn't like a Diablo 2 or a
Borderlands
or anything like that.
But even with single player games, you've seen with Ubisoft where they implement like XP boosters and stuff like that. Like, so like they try to find a way.
I thought they were boosters though in Max Payne. Like, if he like inhaled something, or am I making that up?
Not in 1 and 2. I don't know if they had any of that stuff in 3, but 1 and 2 was like you were Max Payne. There were no skill adjustments as you went on.
There was. Yeah.
At a certain point, you got like certain types of weapons, but that was fairly early in the game, and I would say before even, hour 2 of the first one, like you had all of the weapons and weapon types that you were going to get for the most part, and then you just played through, with those and whatever capabilities and abilities you had at the start.
Yeah, I mean, I think outside of the great, we talked about bullet time earlier. I mean, the storytelling in that game was just fantastic. I'll never forget. There's one scene in the game where, and I can spoil it because I don't. It's been 20 something years. You haven't played this game. I don't know. There's this where he is having a dream or something, and like the baby's crying, and his wife or something. His wife. I don't know. I feel bad. I don't want to spoil it, but anyhow. So he's like, I don't know if you remember this, guys. Like there was a scene where a part of the game was like almost like a puzzle platforming element where you had to follow like trails of the dream or something. Do you guys remember that?
I think that was actually in I can't remember if the dream. I want to say the dream sequence is actually in the second one.
Is it the second one? Maybe it's in the second one.
I think it's the second one. Yeah, and it's. I mean, it's a dream sequence, but it's because he takes he gets exposed to the drug, so then he goes into that drugged out sequence.
Yeah, that was really awesome. But go ahead, Soma. You were going to chime in, man.
I was just going to say that, like, when it comes to remakes, I think the way Capcom has done the Resident Evil remakes is probably like where.
Oh yeah.
I think other developers that are doing this undertaking want to reach, because they really, not just in how they implemented them, and we're probably going to see RE4 remake revealed at some point this year. But RE2 and 3, even though some fans didn't like 3, and I thought 3 was fine because they gave me all the ammo I needed, and I hate Resident Evil because they don't never give me ammo anyway. I think that how they modernized it was perfect, and for Capcom it was excellent because they sold extremely well. So they were received well, they sold well, they critically were received well as well. That's kind of like the goal. So hopefully Max Payne gets similar treatment.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's a great point, Slomo. So B, do you have anything else to say, or before we move on to the next topic?
No, you guys pretty much wrapped it up, man.
All right, man, no doubt. All right, so we got Blue Box. Now, I didn't get a chance to listen to Colin Moriarty's interview of, and I forget the gentleman's name, the head of Blue Box. I'm forgetting his name. Hassan, thank you.
Yeah.
Khan, I think, right? Something like that. No?
Stop it. His last name is not Khan.
He's a con man.
Hassan the Khan.
Yeah, that's why I call him the con man. No, look. Let me just say something real quick. This game has serious red flags for me written all over it. The weird Kojima-esque, even using the font of Metal Gear. The tidbit that I saw of Colin's interview where Colin's like, those numbers don't add up, the $30,000 budget.
$30,000 budget.
And then
there's no way you making a game for $30,000, man. It's not happening.
What game you making at $30K, bro?
And then and then it seemingly like teasing, the game starts with S, ends with the letter L. And then him going to Konami saying, hey, sorry about, or I don't know all the details, but he did go to Konami about, because people thought he was making Silent Hill. Then the whole thing of showing the game through the, I forget what app it was. And then, that not happening. And then showing what was like a quick, shot of somebody walking on a hardwood floor. Utilizing existing assets from Unreal Engine 4.
Yeah, a lot of stock assets from Unreal Engine.
Yeah,
was in that first teaser trailer they did.
Exactly. Yeah,
it was like all stock assets.
Yeah, so I've never made a game. Unlike some people, maybe even some people I see in the live chat. I see you guys on Twitter who are armchair developers. I've never made a game, but I will say this: something seems off here, and Colin's interview solidified that. Yeah, I don't know. I don't, and it's really weird. Sony seemingly marketed this. I think I could be right. If I'm wrong, there, correct me. I know it's a PlayStation 5 exclusive, but that was by choice of the developer.
Yoshida has tweeted about it already before.
Yeah, so I don't know. This could in some instances this seems to me like a work, right? In wrestling, right? In professional wrestling terms, a work. I feel like this is what's happening.
So is it a work? Is it okay? Here's the real question: is it a Kojima work?
Well, I was going to ask you: is it a Kojima work? Is Kojima? And there was, remember that Slow-Mo? There was a lot of this is Kojima, because the teasing was Kojima-esque. It better be. I will say this though, and I forgot his first name. What was his first name again, Slow-Mo? Hassan the Khan. I think if this game, and then they got the 2-hour prologue, which he talked about that in the interview, which is going to cost I think $15 or $19, I forget. That's kind of like a prologue to the game. It's 2 hours. I tell you, the way,
Zeroes, right?
Yeah, similar to Ground Zeroes, which was free. I feel like this guy, he is, the way they've marketed this game, they've set the bar really high, and I just feel like, and I feel bad in a sense because, if he is working his tail off, and which I would imagine that's, if he's making a game, there's probably a lot of work. There's probably a lot of work involved in what he's doing. That if this game doesn't hit, it's just, people are going to pile on and just pile on and pile on and pile on. It's going to be unfortunate, and it's going to be one of those stories of remember this game. And everyone's like, yeah, so.
You guys, I think you guys are getting Iron Man 3'd extremity'd, because I think this guy is like the Mandarin. He's just the face piece, right?
So you think, okay, go ahead. That's interesting, the Mandarin, yes.
And there's some, larger machinations behind the whole thing. Just done to rile up the people who are paying attention.
Game Logic, do you think it's Kojima behind this?
No, I will always try and maintain a modicum of respect when I'm on your show. But you and I have talked, this is the type of thing that I'm like, I just shrug my shoulders and look the other way. I don't.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, even if it is a real game, I don't see this as a system seller. I don't see it as a reason for you to go buy a PlayStation 5. So it's just. But I know it's a thing, but.
But I think Game Logic. I think what's fascinating and why people are talking about it is because of the amount of attention it's gotten, but also at the same time the way the teasing of Silent Hill, Kojima, this guy using the font. It's almost like this is pulled at the marketing is pulled at the emotions, or even maybe nostalgia, if you will, that people have for certain franchises, or even right. Kojima. And then it's like, and then you see all these failures, missed deadlines, not, the big reveal. So I think that is kind of I can't recall a time where I've seen anything like this happen.
Well, this is my concern.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think there's lots of times that things like this happen. And I think it's one of the big root causes in, what is kind of a negative dynamic in the gaming community, and that's my. Well-worn topic about the way that we overhype games and then set expectations way too high. And then when they fail, fall, and crash, then we wind up with a lot of people who are very emotionally tied to it.
Starfield. Starfield.
Yeah, right. So and in fact, not even just that, but this also, I think, I'm not saying Kojima is behind this, but to bring Kojima into it, I feel like this is one of the big problems that we had with Death Stranding. I feel like he did a really great job, theatrically, cinematically, and from a game design perspective. But I think he smoked a little too much of his own product. Right? There was all of
Kojima.
Right. It was all the artsy fartsy, like art house crap, like
Yeah.
in the outset, like he was Quentin Tarantino, and I'm like, if we had just gotten a straight stick story on what Death Stranding was and what that game, like, how many gamers didn't even know that there's combat in the game, right? And
Yeah,
therefore
quite a few people, yeah.
declared it unappealing and no interest in it, right? And so this is kind of the problem that I think, the game industry has to take a look at, that when they go at these marketing campaigns, that there's a point where kind of the mystique around a game at the outset can kind of undo itself, even if it does launched into production.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. I mean, I even think about Death Stranding, because Death Stranding kind of was kind of marketed interesting, and it wasn't just a walking sim, which I think there is some people that even think that it's still a walking sim. By the way, I've seen that. 2 years later, what the game? Yeah, 2 years later now that it released. Since its release,
you do a significant amount of walking.
No, you do, but it's not the only thing you do. I mean, it's there's certainly combat, in the game. But yeah, I mean, there's definitely a lot of walking.
Even that in the locomotion model, right, which is kind of its own meta within the gameplay design. Controlling a mech in like a mech warrior game, and dealing with the different frameworks of modality and how it changes when you add weight, and how it changes when you're going over terrain, and then intermixing that with your whole way try and avoid certain things within the game, or try and take a more efficient trail, get more than just a walking simulator, so to speak.
Yeah.
In my opinion. But again, you don't get that because that was never explained to you, and that's never part of the marketing. And unless you actually take the risk and the plunge to play the game, which a game that might be outside your envelope and comfort zone as a gamer, you never realize that stuff. And if nobody conveys that to you in marketing, then that winds up being a shortfall in sales, at least.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah. B, what are your thoughts, man, about this game, man, and kind of what's I don't know if you had a chance to read Colin or listen to Colin's interview, but what are your thoughts, B?
Man, I don't know who's behind this game, but somebody is. Because that interview just let me know that dude don't even know what the hell he's talking about.
I'm telling you, so it's a work.
He don't know nothing. He don't know nothing about his game. Every question that would reveal anything, he was like, "Oh no, this is under NDA."
NDA, yeah.
As soon as he said what the budget for the game was, I knew that he don't know what the fuck he's talking about. Like, anybody who knows me knows that I have a degree in multimedia design and game development. So a few years after I graduated, I messed around with some art stuff. I was going to start to build my own game, and I realized how much it costs. And I wasn't going out there to try to find funding or anything like that. It just was like a little passion project for myself. Like, when you start to buy assets to build a game, different texture qualities, like all of that costs money, lots of money. So when you tell me that you're putting a game on PlayStation 5 and it's costing $30,000, I know that you don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So that interview just let me know that somebody's behind this. He's just a puppet. He's the face. I mean, like Gamer Logic said, he's the face. He's the puppet. Somebody got their hand up his ass, telling him what to say, because he don't even know what's going on.
But that's so odd, though, right? If what you're saying is true, B, like
you have to understand, like he put a app on the PlayStation Store for you to go download. You know how many contacts you have to even have that happen? You got to go through certification before that even put on the store. Yeah. Somebody knows what's going on there. Somebody had to put this through cert. Like, he had to pay for the certificate. Like, $30,000 ain't gonna get it done.
Wow.
How about
I didn't even think about
even
that.
having it promoted, on the PlayStation Store cost that $30K. That's what what PlayStation charges for indies just to even put your game up there in the store to even be looked at without people having to search for it.
Right.
That's $30K right there.
Well,
You're
so
saying-
wait. Okay, wait. I'm sorry, Slim. I don't want to interrupt. I mean,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
so
Decade plus licenses.
right.
so
It's impossible for any of this to cost $30K.
well, I think
Trevor. I'm just gonna call him Trevor. That was Ben Kingsley's character in the MCU.
Trevor.
Trevor Khan.
Look, B, you brought up a great point. Like these things, when you start getting assets, that stuff costs money. It doesn't cost $70 money though. B, it doesn't cost that much. Shouldn't cost that much.
Yeah, whatever.
Did you see his explanation for the whole Solid Snake banner on the Twitter account? Oh, that's some other character named Greg or something. in our game.
Yeah.
We just blurred it out. Just so happened it looked like Solid Snake. Shut your. Okay, whatever, bro. Like, who do you think he's talking to?
Yeah.
So is Kojima behind this then? B, do you think Kojima's behind this?
If he isn't, somebody else is, man. I don't know if Kojima is directly tied to this. He just moved out of his studio. Yeah, I mean, so like, he's moving into a bigger space.
Great segue, by the way.
There's been rumors of a Metal Gear Solid remake for forever. We've known about this shit for like 2+ years.
We mentioned it on the show like 2 years ago that this game was in the works. Yeah.
Like we know that is eventually coming. We don't know where it's at and why it hasn't been announced. But like, why the stuff that this studio is doing is so odd, and what makes sense to be something that Kojima was working on. That it makes you kind of lean in that direction. Like, oh, Kojima's got to be behind this. But if he isn't, then who is? Because like, there's no way. Like the stuff he says does not make sense at all.
And then you talk about the him getting a streaming app, an app on PlayStation, right?
It doesn't make sense, man.
Yeah, I didn't even think about the app piece. That's
when you just look at you just go back to and look at any of the developers who put their blood, sweat, and tears into putting out an indie game. Look at Studio MDHR with Cuphead. You know how long they worked on that game and how much it cost them before they even were able to put that game out on Xbox? They almost lost their damn house.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
that's true.
You're not putting out. You can not tell me that your game costs $30,000 and you put it on a PlayStation store because it doesn't make any fucking sense.
Yeah.
B, some of the live chat just said B money's behind it.
But no. Look, B is absolutely 1,000%.
There's some great points there,
correct.
B. I didn't think about that.
You look at the reality behind putting your game on the PlayStation platform, and you can't say that this game is going to cost $30K. No, like you're spending $30K just to even have your game even be heard of. You got Shuei out here tweeting your game out, like talking about your game, tweeting about it. Out of all the games that he could talk about,
Shuei's in London with Double Fine right now having dinner.
It doesn't make none of that stuff makes any sense whatsoever. There are Twitter threads out there. There was guys, remember last year the entire hubbub about like there was like indie devs who were speaking anonymously because they didn't want any retaliation from Sony, but complaining about the process of how Sony's producers work with indies and how difficult it is to get anything done. Just difficult to get to change your price on the store, like the hoops that you have to jump through just to get that done. And this guy's out here with a trash app,
willy-nilly, just out here with this trash ass game, making an app like it don't make no sense.
Yeah,
wow.
There's just no way.
The plot thickens. I love it.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about hey, Game Logic. What you hearing this, Game Logic? What do you think, man? You think someone big is behind this then?
I really haven't given it that much. I threw that out as a joke. I mean, the other possibility is that you guys are getting Theranosed, and this Khan guy is the Elizabeth Holmes of video games, and we'll all be watching his trial go down in a few years.
That's pretty funny, man.
He been out here swindling people for money and
Hassan
making
Khan.
promises he can't keep, and just try to keep the con going. Hey,
Yeah.
And like he mentioned that he had like, support studios helping him develop the game. One of the support studios just helped Guerrilla Games finish Horizon. You think he's gonna be able to get that studio to help him on a $30,000 budget?
And so let's cast the Dropout 2, which will be on Hulu in a few years. Who plays Khan?
That's funny, man.
But yeah,
The Rock.
if he's naming a support studio that's helped for Sony first party studios before, I mean, what does that really say?
I think this is just it's just an odd marketing thing. Like this could either turn out to be genius or like the worst thing ever.
So far, it's the worst thing ever.
I would, yeah.
It ain't looking too good so far. So far, like but people are either completely done with this game, never want to hear about it again, and when it comes out, will never touch it based off of all of the annoyance just this talk of the game has given them. And then the other half are just curious. Like they may not even care about the kind of game it is. They're just curious on what the hell is going on here. Like what is really happening here? But very few people are like, I want to play that.
Yeah, I mean, to keep talking a little bit about the marketing, right? There is such a thing, as we all know, about a game overstaying its welcome, right, in the marketing sphere, like prior to release, and that's what this thing is doing. And I definitely go through, as a guy who keeps up with tech, I go through this cycle every single year. I go through this rumor cycle of what the next Samsung S20 whatever is going to be, and what the next Apple is, and there's a certain point Apple iPhone is going to be, and there's a certain point of the year where I go, flipping A, man, I'm ready for the thing just to come out so people can stop with all these stupid rumors and design mock-ups and all this nonsense, right? Let's, so, and we do this ad nauseum with games too. So, quite honestly, I'm looking forward to a chilling effect around all this, and for the game to just go quiet until it has something reeled up. I don't even want to necessarily say show, because I don't know that we're ever gonna see anything that can be credibly considered real right in this game, but ready for it to be quiet until it shows up at like a PlayStation State of Play or whatever.
Yeah. I don't know. It's this thing's interesting. I think B and Slomo, I think you guys really hit some points I didn't even think about, which further is as further like really got me thinking about that. Yeah, maybe someone big is behind this. It would seem to make sense, but that leads me to Hideo Kojima, which we know Jim Ryan. I mean, no secret. I mean, Jim Ryan is actually say we're not done acquiring studios, so we can expect more studio acquisitions. They're clearly kicking the tires of different studio publishers in Japan and global elsewhere. But Kojima, I mean, people are starting to, again, this is all chatter. I mean, who knows if this is going to happen, but could we see B, and I don't know if you've heard anything, B, or if you can even talk or say anything, but have you heard anything about Sony locking up Kojima Productions? And if they did, it would kind of make sense. It kind of falls into that playbook of them partnering with individuals they've had working relationships with in the past. What do you think, B?
I think it's a strong possibility that pretty soon that is an announcement that they make.
Okay. So you are saying, B, just to reiterate, you're saying is there's a strong possibility that they will announce the acquisition of Kojima of his productions soon. Make sure I'm understanding that correctly. Okay. Mm-hmm. All right. Fair enough. All right. And why do you... So let me ask you something else, B. Like, why... When do you think that announcement could happen, though? Like, would that be something, what would be traditionally around the E3 timeframe, or is that something later in the year? And what about the game that supposedly Jeff Grubb talked about that there was going to be a game Kojima was making for the Xbox. What about that?
I mean, that definitely still can happen. We've seen games where companies have been acquired by Microsoft and their games still release on PlayStation. Yeah, I mean, so it's kind of just one of those things. Like if that ink has dried on that contract, that he still has to fulfill that. It'll essentially become a PlayStation game. But going forward, I'm sure they would try to keep all of his content on their platform.
Yeah, interesting, man. Wow. Sam Walton actually agrees with you. He says Hip Hop Gamer stands by the fact that Sony's already locked them up. And actually, if you listen to some of the things Hip Hop Gamer said, and I think he even said on this show a couple years ago, some of those things have come to fruition more recently. So
I used to tell people all the time, man. People used to try to take shots at hip hop. Like he's well entwined in the industry. I mean, like he knows a lot of people. He moves around. He talks to a lot of people behind the scenes. But when he says something, 90%, 99% of the time, he knows what he's talking about.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with you. I don't think a lot of people listen to some of the things he says, and like I said, we've had him on the show, and there's some things he said that happened more recently, as relates to I think some of the backwards compatibility stuff. But anyhow, Game Logic, man, Eddie, what do you think about this, man? Do you think Kojima Productions, that's probably something that's going to happen? What are your thoughts on this?
I don't know. I haven't been paying that much attention to the acquisition forward-looking watch. I guess one of my questions I've been more concerned about is that may hinge on whether or not how much of a reality that is. I mean, do we expect that Kojima's artistic desire still rests largely with making games over the next, say, 10 to 20 years of his career? Or is he turning his eyes towards other entertainment mediums like, making movies?
Well, could he do both, though, is the question,
and
right?
That fits exactly what Sony wants to do. If that was the case.
Yeah, I think we
know like a Metal Gear movie is coming from Konami. Like we already know that's coming. You know what I mean? Like if Kojima wanted to get into movies, that would be the place to go. You know what I mean? Sony is well versed in putting out content around gaming content, and they've put out other stuff as well. So what I mean, I think that would be an opportunity for them, depending on how long of a leash they give him, as far as his creative nature. But I think that would fit what both parties kind of want.
Yeah, that's a great point, B. Like, Sony obviously has the ability to do that for him, right? Movies, TV, television, whatever he wants to do, and then also the gaming piece. Yeah. So, what do you think, Slow-Mo? Did we lose Slow-Mo?
Looks like he's muted. He might have.
He may have stepped away.
Yeah.
Slow-Mo had to go on a bathroom break. So he'll be back soon. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I mean, I'm curious to see, one of the things that we know about, and some of the things we've heard, B-Money, regarding PlayStation, is that they are going to be they are being super aggressive.
Yes.
With either locking down first party content or new first party content, second party content, or even money having third party exclusives. Like they are really like, I don't know. I mean, like it's funny. Like it's the one consistent thing that I've heard from people in the industry that, yeah, like Sony is really like, they're really kicking the tires with a lot of things, and they got a lot of things, happening. Like, I mean, it's funny. You look at, I think probably as an example, and we could debate whether or not it's timed or not. I don't think it is. But Knights of the Old Republic, you look at that, right? I mean, that's
right.
And that's something that we heard that something that they would be doing. Then there's, the 3 or 4, I forget what it is, B. What is it? 3 or 4 multiplayer shooters? Is it they have in development? What is it? I forget.
Yeah. Deviation Games is working on one of them. Haven Firewalk Studios. Fire Sprite.
Fire Sprite, yeah.
Yeah. Gorilla's making a multiplayer game. You know what I mean? So they have a pretty large development pipeline. And everybody's like all worried, like, Sony didn't announce anything for the rest of the year. It's just like, bro, I gotta chill, man. All the years, you know what I mean, we used to look forward to Sony's E3, and 3 years in a row they showed us the same shit. Everybody's like, yo, show us something else. Y'all keep showing the same games. We're gonna see Spider-Man 3 times. We're gonna see Uncharted 4 times. Like, okay, now they falling back on that. Everybody like, yo, y'all gonna show us something. We want to see. So now, they're taking their time. Showing games when they're ready to be shown. And, I prefer this strategy. Show me when the game is almost ready to come out, and, get my hype in order. Give me a date on when it's coming. Game drops. Play it. On to the next one. I don't want to see games 3 and 4 years, 5 years. Like, that does nothing for me.
Yeah, no, I hear you, man. I hear you. I think some of those people just want to be excited, but I think what Game Logic said earlier. I think it was Game Logic. He said about like, don't overhype games. You don't want to set the bar too high, maybe, and be disappointed.
Right.
That's why I caution people. And while I think Starfield is going to be a good game based on Bethesda's track record, and I'm looking forward to it, but I'm also not going to go out there and be like, yeah, it's game of the year. What? Like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not, right. And I'm not going to compare it to what Sony does from a first party perspective. I see a lot of that going on. Like, why would you do that? Right. I from experience have done that. I remember I had my list. I used to be, for those who don't know, I was a GameSpot moderator for the Xbox forums, and I used to wave that green flag. And I remember like hyping up games, doing the list wars. Oh, we got Reckless. That's our GTA 3 when GTA 3 was exclusive on PlayStation, and that game was terrible. Reckless was not a good game. It was a tech demo for the Xbox. They turned it into a game. Beautiful looking game, just wasn't good. So it's a cautionary tale of just be excited, but don't put it to the moon. Don't create these list wars, because you can be disappointed. And I remember that, feeling that level of disappointment, and then lying about it on the forums because I wanted to rep a brand, and that's a true story. I know people do that. I see it all the time.
So how else are you gonna get on Twitter and proclaim that you know exactly what your gaming schedule is 6 months from now?
Exactly. So, but yeah, I think, look, I go back to kind of, what you're saying, B. I mean, they're really working on a lot of stuff behind the scene, or they're working on a lot of stuff. Like, I think, and there's going to be more acquisitions, which is going to be interesting to see who else they acquire. I think some of those acquisitions they announced probably won't surprise some people, or many people.
Hope, the Deviation acquisition happens pretty soon. Mm-hmm. I just feel like they are kind of in a spot, like, when Respawn first started, and they were all ex Modern Warfare devs or whatever, and they kind of came out of nowhere. Titanfall was like this pretty big thing as an Xbox One debut, and everybody thought there's just this one trick pony, and then they hit us with the Star Wars game, and they were like, oh, okay, Respawn's pretty good. They haven't made a bad game since. I feel like Deviation could be like that same type of studio, and I hope that they take the time to recognize that is a possibility, and grab them kind of early, and kind of put them under the belt, because I think that it's just as far as like looking at the staff that they have, and all the stuff that they've been putting out, for that studio, they look like they're gonna be pretty exciting for the next couple of years. So hopefully they recognize that, and that's something that they're eyeballing, and the acquisition happens.
Yeah, let me grab some super chats here, guys. or one super chat at least. Brain cells on fire with a $2 super chat. Says, Xbox have an inferiority complex of Sony fanboys. Thank you for that insightful super chat. I'm being sarcastic. All right, and real quick, big shout out to Delirium Blades, Brian Baker, who says, "Just get a PC and be done with console wars. Stop fighting over mid-level performance." Yeah, exactly.
More. I think more people go to PC if more games are released day and date on PC. Like if Sony games were day and date on PC, I think there would be an influx of people who are just like, you know what, let me just go to PC.
I would welcome Sony going day and date on PC. I would get rid of one of my. Well, you know what? I might not get rid of my PlayStation 5s. I may want the option of playing. I have a Series X I don't use, and I just have it just in case I want the option or having that option to play. Sitting on the couch on my OLED, but yeah, I mean, at that point, I would be totally on board with with PC, 110%. I mean, yeah, I don't disagree with Blades, by the way. I don't Game Logic. I think you might agree with that too. Being a PC only gamer now, you have no buyer's remorse, right?
Really, not exactly in that same kind of vein. My feeling on PC is, and this is, let me not lie and say that this is not an insult. It's not meant to be an insult. I think the PC is best suited for people who have a very wide aperture on gaming, because there are genres that just play better on PC that just are not really great experiences on console. And they are things that I would contend, are not normally in a console gamer's windshield and isn't really part of their palette that they really have in consideration. So things like 4X games, turn-based strategy games, some of your specific types of RPGs, flight simulations, racing simulations, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Obviously console is a great place to play, third-person action adventure kind of Ubisoft model, SIE model kind of game. And I don't say that in a derogatory manner. I'm just saying that is the design house style for those publishers and studios predominantly. And those games play well there. So I don't really, there much ado is made about the notion of Sony going day and date. And yes, I think it would bring an influx of gamers, but it would be an influx of gamers that may falsely chase themselves onto that platform, which still isn't by content really designed to host them. And they might find themselves, bored or orphaned or abandoned once they come over, unless they're willing to do that widening of the aperture to get into more variety of what gaming has to offer.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, there's certainly a lot of variety on the PC side that falls out what I think traditional console gamers might want, right? But yeah, I can only speak to myself. I would gladly welcome PlayStation putting their first party stuff on, PC. I mean, when I hear you Game Logic talk about God of War on PC, I'm like, what? Really? It looks even better? Like, that's crazy.
For all that I said, right? Like, again, if you don't recognize that something like God of War plays at its best on PC, where it plays at 120 frames per second, in 1440p, without having to go through all the chicanery, and not saying that you don't have to deal with hardware, right? Because you certainly do, but I also don't need HDMI 2.1. It's rather, limited exposure, limited form factors on the market, right? It's kind of already accommodated within the PC ecosystem. So, there are things and advantages of that nature. And when we talk about the tech advantages of consoles, those tech advantages get introduced like once every 7 years, whereas on PC you're constantly getting innovations like AMD smart memory availability and the availability of direct storage, which is going to get PCs, and upgraded versions of DirectX, et cetera, that kind of incrementally change components of the gaming landscape to your advantage with a relatively shorter hop. When those tech implementations and methodologies come out, maybe you need to get a new video card to take advantage of some, but typically it's a part that you have to go get. It's not necessarily a $500 console that you have to go out and figure out how to source, in its limited availabilities and stuff on the market. I would say, like, 20-30% of the time, it's hard to onboard onto a new technical implementation on PC, but the rest of the time, it's just waiting for a part to drop and then going out and getting it and throwing it in your rig.
Yeah, that's a great point, man. It's a great point. I do want to get to this last topic here. Slobo, are you back, man? Are we still on mute?
Yes, I'm back. Sorry.
Oh, okay. All right, man. I just want to make sure you're good, man. So, all right. I don't even know where to begin with this one. This was kind of an interesting topic, or set of events that happened this past weekend. So it's funny, like the whole acquisition of Activision by Microsoft, I think has brought about some interesting commentary amongst the community. Oh God. Some of the things I've seen, just, I don't understand. And I never will. The need to defend, trillion-dollar corporations, billion-dollar companies, and do like pro bono work for them. Like, they don't care about you. Number one, they really don't. They may follow you, they may befriend you, but there's motivations behind that. It's not, hey, I want to be your buddy. Come on, I'll have a beer with you. No. I mean, you essentially are a vehicle for their marketing, messaging, whatever the case is, right? So with the acquisition kind of being under the magnifying glass of the U.S. federal government, we know that. It's kind of like, look, it's kind of, lack of a better, it's kind of like hunting season right now, with Congress and technology companies, right? We know about Facebook. Obviously, Microsoft making what is their biggest acquisition is going to draw attention. And I think that some of the folks on Capitol Hill too, have also said that have memories of Microsoft. And what was the antitrust stuff? Was that late 90s, early 2000s? Is that right?
Yeah, it was 1992 to 2001, I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
From the start of the investigation being opened by the Department of Justice until Microsoft finally settled out of court, and that being after they were basically, found guilty and then appealed it and then had that overturned and then were, brought back to the table to finally kind of settle.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. So I think, obviously this has generated, a lot of buzz, a lot of attention. And again, it's kind of hunting season right now on Capitol Hill. There's obviously some political grandstanding, I think for us that live, outside Washington, D.C., we're kind of used to these things. I would say, Slomo, you're probably not surprised, right?
Not really, no.
By some of the political grandstanding. But, I think one of the things, again, that was really telling to me was how quickly people were coming to the defense of Microsoft over commentary that Elizabeth Warren made, right? Like, I mean, and I'm trying to find her commentary right now. Give me a sec here, guys. Hold on. I got to find this. I had her tweet, and I don't know what the hell happened to it. Give me a sec here. Hold on a second.
Well, I just wanted to say real quick that so we have these big acquisitions, and I think back to something that was going to affect my company back in like early the early of last decade, the first time that T-Mobile tried to merge with Sprint. This is a different industry, but it all goes the same when it comes to the government. You see big companies trying to either acquire one another or merge. I thought it was a done deal back then. Well, people
I
don't
remember
know.
that. I did too. Yeah.
Yeah, people don't know is that T-Mobile and Sprint had tried to merge multiple times before it finally happened. I remember speaking to I worked for a government contractor, and I remember speaking to someone that I knew that had some contacts with that side of the things, and they were like, "It's not happening." And I was just like, "What?" They're just like, "Look, there are people, lobbyists that work for AT&T and Verizon that don't want this to happen. It's not going to happen." And lo and behold, like months later, the whole thing fell apart. Now, eventually it got, together, and maybe, different people are in charge, different administrations are in charge, narratives change, but like we can't, on the video game side of things, expect like, oh hey, Miss Warren, please, Senator Warren, please investigate this. What? Nothing to do with console war stuff. It has nothing to do with any of that. Politics is a different game, and something that could be completely on the up and up can end up being completely like fall through for no real reason other than certain people got greased and certain people didn't. It is what it is. But it's just do I think it's going to go through? I guess. I mean, who knows? I don't care really, honestly. But like the people who are so invested in this and like saying stuff about politicians on Twitter.
And I'll get to that in a minute, by the way. Yeah, I'll get to that in a minute.
It's just like y'all need to just chill out about stuff y'all don't understand. Saying things like, look, some of y'all have said stuff, threatened these executives that work for these video game companies. I'm telling you right now, do not do that to any of the people that are involved in investigating this acquisition. Please don't do that to yourself, okay? Because it's you don't want to realize that, like, have to end up saying I was just joking, but no one took it as a joke. Sorry. So yeah, go ahead, bro.
So I just want to, what you're talking about, the emotional attachment, the outburst, the outcries at a politician over something so trivial is fucking mind blowing to me. Like I don't even understand like what's going on. Like I was shocked, and well, maybe I shouldn't be shocked, but I was, because and these are content creators, people on social media that are like, saying these things, going after, throwing temper tantrums, angrily, calling into question the integrity of a politician over a company, $1 trillion company that could give a rat's ass about them. Right. And I do believe if you want to harass a politician, harass them about something that actually has some impact, some meaningful impact for the greater good of either your community, yourself, society, whatever the case is. Not over $1 trillion company who has lawyers in place to defend them, who have lobbyists in place on Capitol Hill to defend them, to push their agendas, right? To have some influence. Like, but people going out on the limb. And what's crazy, and I'm going to put on my HR hat because what I do as a professional, to start pulling best places to work list. And I had some people upset at me. Oh, well, why? Well, you clearly have a distaste for Microsoft. No, like take those lists with a grain of salt. And why are you even using a list to defend a company? Like, why? For what? Like, this company's not paying you. They're not. Are they giving you money? No. As long as they're providing you with entertainment value and the games you love playing, that should be all that matters. But some of this stuff that I saw this past weekend, appalling. Like literally, going out of your way. No, Microsoft's a great company to work for. Really? You know? How do you know? Do you work there? I mean, look, a lot of us have, all of us here on the panel would imagine we have all worked for, I'm assuming different companies. It's not always sunshine and roses at companies, right?
I think it's also safe to say I think everyone on this panel probably knows somebody who actually has firsthand knowledge of working at Microsoft, has actually associated closely with workers from Microsoft. And like a lot of the people in this thread are standing on the fact that they're a YouTuber as, statements of their credibility. And I'm like, people need to understand this isn't about video games, right? It's a deal in the video game industry, but the factors that are at play here are not flippant about whether, Apex Legends, right, is a better game than Call of Duty. It's not about Microsoft getting subscriptions for Call of Duty players for the next esports thing over, whatever Sony might be doing with a Resistance Fall of Man multiplayer, right? I'm just making content up, right? But my point is that this topic is not about putting a controller in your hand and what you do at night. This topic is about much bigger factors in financial space, legal space, economic space, labor relations space that people don't understand. And I'm just going to call it out, a lot of people are making idiots of themselves by jumping up in this thread, which is a tweet between Senator Warren and the chairman of the FTC, right? Throwing up a lot of things that we kind of joke around about and kind of play at, right, when we talk about stuff in the gaming community. It's kind of like going up to an astronaut and talking about flying a paper airplane, right? It's people completely out of their depth, completely out of their field. Right. And it's not to say that politicians, don't do bad things. It's not to say that politics isn't about making a lot of deals and compromises. What I would say from a vector of like why I would care and why these kinds of things bother me, it has to do with a lot of things that I talk about, which is how often we in the gaming community leap to have discussions about things that we are uninformed and uneducated about, and how we make fools of ourselves. And the fact that, and people don't get this, and it's a little frustrating, that the more the gaming community makes a collective effort to show how dumb we are, the more companies, corporations, and perhaps politicians are encouraged to continue to try and potentially pull wool over our eyes or treat us as if we are a constituency we shouldn't be paid attention to. It would have been full on okay to get into this thread, maybe, right, and to make some claims if somebody pulled together some facts, if somebody pulled together some valid reasons, if somebody took 5 minutes to look and see what senatorial committees Elizabeth Warren sits on and why she has an interest in this, and would try and address the interest that she's bringing these topics up for, instead of limiting themselves to the 280 character tweet and trying to derive some meaning out of that and getting that completely flat out wrong. Sorry to jump in front of you there, BRAP.
No, yeah, and it's interesting because again, it's the fact that people are taking this, it's so personal. That's disturbing to me, because it's like, are we in a fucking cult? Are we just gaming enthusiasts who enjoy this hobby? And this tweet just really doesn't have anything to do with whether or not, whether or not we enjoy this hobby or not. In her tweet, and to your point, Game Logic, no, a lot of these people, and even in one particular content creator, didn't even really take the time. You could tell by the response, didn't take the time to read the article that gives you additional context into what it is she's addressing, which if I remember correctly, had something to do with, the real concern is kind of like labor relations or something like that. I don't recall everything, but something to do with like pay. What is it? Things that are more labor related, right? And how this merger can impact people that are working for these companies, you know, and they're going to scrutinize this because they don't want to set. They got to be careful of certain precedents they set, right? That could have a negative impact on workers in the industry, but nobody read those things, and it immediately became pitchforks out. We got to defend Microsoft. They need us. This $1 trillion company. We got to defend them, you know. And all she said, and I got to be honest with you, people, people not, and you could tell. I could tell that this was emotionally charged because no one really took the time, I think, to digest what she was saying. Like, how do you conflate could with would? And I got the tweet up. So Elizabeth Warren says, at Activision has a history of unchecked workplace sexual misconduct, discrimination. We all know about that. If the merger with Microsoft happens, conditions for workers could get worse. This is why that part right there could get worse. People took that as she was saying, in fact, 100% would get worse. She's not saying that. She's saying could get worse. You also need to read that article, the letter from the senators addressing why they think things could potentially get worse and so forth. So
they're also trying to push a bill, which is
that too. I was going to get to that. Just political grandstanding here with regards to this bill, which is not unusual for Congress. They do have agendas. They are going to grandstand things, and pass and try to pass this new bill that covers workers, whatever. So that's your point. But that's a great point, Slomo. But just to finish up my quick thought here, but to Gamer Logic's point too, is that like the fact that people are engaging in subject matter and driving narratives that are really not accurate, and you have content creators doing this, that's a problem. Like people literally were saying terrible things about her over something so trivial. Like, this isn't it. This isn't a hill to die on over a $1 trillion company that you have some weird emotional attachment to.
Like, and it's just not the way, right? I mean,
yeah.
Going back to her tweet, Activision has a history of unchecked workplace sexual misconduct and discrimination. Fact. Irrefutable, right? Absolutely no logic in charging that hill to try and unravel that piece of the statement. If that means possibility, not probability, not definitive outcome. If the merger with Microsoft happens, conditions, again, not specifically sexual harassment, not specifically discrimination, all encompassing holistic conditions. That means compensation. That means the effort for those workers to unionize within Activision, which Activision initially came off the bench with their board, the same way that they have jumped off the bench to immediately defend Bobby Kotick without 5 minutes of thought, right? Like, the guy gets pointed at and accused red-handedly, right, with corroborating evidence, and the first thing that board always does is immediately leaps to his defense, instead of pumping the brakes and saying, hey, let's wait like 24 hours to see how this thing unfolds. If the merger with Microsoft happens, conditions for workers could get worse. That's not a refutable statement either, right? Her drawing attention to the fact that that is a risk, right, which is part of the FTC's and the DOJ's and their joint antitrust division, that is what they are supposed to police and monitor, is what is the risk, what is the potential exposure, and what could happen if these mergers and acquisitions were to go through. I want the FTC to closely scrutinize the merger. First of all, the merger is going to get closely scrutinized, right? Because of the historical precedents that got brought up. That is a foregone conclusion. That is going to happen. Her saying that doesn't really upset the balance in the universe, right? With respect to that. That's also the statement going to Lena Khan, who is the newly seated FTC chairman, 33 years old, the most tech knowledgeable person who's ever sat the post. Simply because of the fact of where she lines up in the generation and because of the academic and initial legal work that she's done since coming out of school. It's going to get scrutinized. The FTC is looking at revising the guidelines because, quite frankly, and I've addressed this before too, we have a lot of laws in this country which were made, as is most often the case, right, without a complete understanding of where we were going to be in the future and the way big tech kind of operates on the landscape now and how the dynamics of the game have changed. And there is an argument, I would contend a good argument, for the fact that there needs to be a revision of things like that to kind of contend with the new dynamics, because we're not trying to manage big oil anymore. We're not trying to manage a textile industry. We are trying to manage a different type of industry, which has heavy reliance on different forms of labor, which creates different opportunities for people. The fact that part of the impact is going to be that the workforce is going to have to be retrained because a lot of jobs are going to go away because of automation. Things like that create new dynamics for which there need to be eyes on how the labor force could be impacted by large mergers like this. Again, not the fact, I mean, in some of the things that were brought up, Microsoft has a great HR department. Okay, I don't know where the hell that comes from or how you would have firsthand knowledge of that, but let's even run with that. The fact that Microsoft has a great HR department, there's still bad things that go on inside Microsoft, right? When you nestle a $70 billion acquisition size company underneath that umbrella, that pushes people down from that degree of monitoring. It further stratifies the organization. And so Microsoft could have the best HR department on the planet, but when you tuck another 10, 15, 22 levels right underneath them, that means they're going to have difficulty penetrating down to that level of the organization and doing any kind of effective monitoring. So lots of issues that are in the air, lots of reasons to scrutinize the deal. As BRAP said, right, it's hunting season out for big tech, and specifically the big five, right? Microsoft, Google, Facebook, Amazon, and Apple. Any move that those guys make is going to get heavily scrutinized. That has been the case regardless of which party has been in power, right, in DC. And it's only getting worse. And really, to date, all that any of those guys have had to do is show up and testify. But we're starting to head into a timeline where there's going to start being some consequences and some judgments made in how those guys operate. You know, quite frankly, the best thing that gamers could do, as far as I'm concerned, I think with this is like not make a lot of noise and just let it happen. Because, you know, I don't know that this is the deal for Congress to make somebody an example of. I think that there are other industries which are far more important. I think there are other industries that that involve technology that could fall into the hands of other countries and are further impacted by bad actors, and have impact and implications on greater national interests that will be primary targets for Congress. And this is one that, you know, I mean, not saying that it'll get approved, but this is one that's going to kind of live or die on its own merits, I think. And making a lot of noise around it, particularly driven by foolishness and misinformation and, you know, an uneducated viewpoint. I don't know if that's healthy or helpful for the gaming community.
Yeah, I don't think it's healthy or helpful at all. I mean, I really don't. I mean, and to me, what I saw this past weekend is what everything you just described. People making these hot takes or getting angry and upset over things they don't understand. And it's mind-blowing. And it's all because they're emotionally attached to a $1 trillion company that doesn't care about them. No company cares about you. Their only job, like Eric likes to say, is to separate you from your wallet. That's it. Sony doesn't care about me. Microsoft doesn't care about me. And, you know, the other thing that I kind of want to mention too is, you know, when we talk about these lists and you know, these best places to work, there's a lot of bias that goes into that. That's why I was saying, and I've created these lists, these surveys that go out. They are big marketing campaigns that go behind these surveys where employers feel pressure to speak goodly or great about a company. You know, these companies utilize these surveys as PR, especially from the TA perspective. You know, especially to promote their employee brand. All companies have or I say not employee brand, a company brand. All companies have a company brand, and you know, outside of whatever product they're selling. But you know, yeah, I mean, you take those things with a grain of salt, and they're not really, you know, it's not, to me, again, it's not something that I would, again, because I'm in this world professionally, not something that I would go out there and wave in front of Elizabeth Warren. I mean, it's foolishness. And, and the thing that's unfortunate is for the people that were trying to have some good discourse over this, they were chastised as being anti-Xbox or anti-Microsoft, and that's just unfortunate. That's unfortunate. It seems like instead of being able to have a rational, educated conversation or listen to people who have good viewpoints because they understand what's going on, that stuff gets suppressed, and that's really unfortunate. And it's to the detriment of the community, I think. I'm going to shut up now. I'm going to let Slow-Mo and B-Money chime in. Guys, what are your thoughts on this?
I do kind of feel like it's once again kind of part of the course for the gaming community to embarrass everyone collectively by kind of showing their ass when in situations like this. These politicians don't give a crap. They care even less about this stuff than you think Microsoft or Sony cares about you. This is a means to an end. Why they tweet out the things they say, what they're doing, in the nation's capital. This is work for them. This is what they do. And if it's going to be, hey, we need to scrutinize this, they may even look at it and be like, this thing's going through, no matter what I say. But I need to show to my constituents that I'm attempting to make things better for workers. So I'll do some grandstanding. I'll do this. I'll do that. Do what I can.
That's actually been mentioned. That they mentioned public employees and the industry have actually wanted some kind of accountability from Bobby Kotick.
Yeah.
They're your constituents,
Yeah, but here's the reality of it. Bobby Kotick's getting a golden parachute. Period.
Oh, he's getting paid.
He is not going to be held accountable for what he did at Activision. Period. He's not. He's getting his golden parachute. Y'all need to just get over that. Like he is going to be paid handsomely for being a major a-hole. And yes, he threatened his assistant to have her killed. Yes, he hid evidence of other people under him sexually harassing and doing all kinds of stuff from the board. He did all that stuff, and guess what? Microsoft negotiated a price with him that worked. And when it's all said and done,
surprised it's still there, Slow-Mo.
Oh, I'm not. Because they need to have somebody still around to run things until this deal is done. And even after the deal is done, there's an exit plan. He's not going to leave immediately. For Bobby to mess up this bag he's about to get, he have to start slapping the entire board around. And he's not doing that. He's not messing up his money. So look, they didn't come to Microsoft. Bobby didn't agree to come to Microsoft in order for him not to walk out of this looking pretty rich. He's already a rich guy. He's about to get even richer. People got to get it out of their head thinking that something's going to change. Nothing's going to change with that. Whether this deal falls through and Microsoft owes them $3 billion for it falling through, or whether this deal goes through and he ends up leaving with like $250 million. It's going to happen, bro. Just look. Do I wish he could get his comeuppance? I absolutely do. But I gotta be realistic here. It's not happening. You know what we would like to see is that Phil Spencer takes over Activision Blizzard King and makes it a better place. That's what we want to see. Is that going to happen? We don't know that. We don't know that it will happen that way no more than any of the politicians.
Slow-Mo, are you saying in terms of the culture there that even Microsoft acquiring Activision, that they may not be able to fix things, because a lot of people are
No.
saying, oh, Phil's going to come in there, he's going to fix things, it's going to be great. And I'm like, well, how do you,
But
first
look,
of all, we got to stop making
Kodak-
statements like that,
yeah,
definitive statements. We don't
like,
know.
Getting rid of Kodak, getting rid of Bobby. Bobby isn't the guy.
He isn't the only one.
Forcing women to do the crawl at work. Bobby isn't the guy with the Cosby Room.
Oh, let's not talk about the Cosby Room, man.
But this is the stuff that's going on. It's
I know.
more than just him. It's a culture there. Now, he protected the culture there. But when you have an entire culture full of people who mistreat minorities, people who are different, and mistreat women, that's not one guy. You can get rid of that one guy, but you still got a problem. And the problem is the rest of the people in leadership who also had no problem with that. The problem is HR, who also hid that. There's going to be a lot of changes that need to happen. And what we don't know for certain is that the people who are brought in are any better than the people who are leaving. We don't know that, right? So it's just like there's a lot of stuff that that none of us can know. You know, even Phil doesn't know how it's going to turn out. I know he has good intentions for it to work out well, but he doesn't know for certain he can change it or he can turn it around. The goal is to turn it around and then make Activision Blizzard more profitable, and of course, everything go into Game Pass, right? Because that's the platform.
Yeah,
Will it turn out that way? We don't know. But
yeah,
like,
that's a great point.
But
We don't know.
upset at politicians for doing their jobs, even though we may look at like Senator Warren and be like, you tried to become president and then tried to appeal to Native Americans and say you're a Native American. You got less than 1% Native American blood in you. Like it's funny, right?
It's like,
But like outside of that, she still has a job to do as a senator, bro. So she's just doing her job. She's not a pony. She's not like hating Microsoft. She's doing her job, bro.
Let me just. I want to read something to you because you're saying you're doing your job. I'm not going to name. Here's some of the responses to Senator Warren. Some people are saying Satya Nadella has an awesome workplace structure for most of the people I hear. Okay, so now most of the people I hear, right? Employees are listened to, heard, input valued. Maybe you mean some of the maybe some of their competitors who are facing massive lawsuits. Definitely misinformed. Like, what are we doing here? Those are some of the examples. Some of the comments. Like what?
Yeah, like you say she's misinformed, and it's hilarious because it's like
you're using anecdotal evidence, and I bring that comment up to you, Slomo, because again, there's layers to this.
Mm-hmm.
What happened to that person from the what was it? Was it Teams?
Microsoft Teams?
Yeah, who was it that was on? Remember, she was saying some things. Was it?
Oh, you talking about Mixer? What happened
Mixer?
with Mixer?
Yeah.
So let's talk about that for a second. This happened in Microsoft. There was a black man who worked in the leadership for Mixer. In a meeting, the head of Mixer, who was an Asian woman, made a slavery joke. Her joke was that she looked at the content creators on Mixer, the people streaming, as her slaves, and she was the slave driver.
Wow. Yeah.
Go ahead, Slow.
He heard that, didn't immediately call her out for it, but waited until after the meeting was over to pull her aside and say, I did not appreciate that kind of comment. That was out of line. She told him, if you want to get far in this company, you need to not be so thin-skinned. So in other words, don't bring this up to me no more. If you want to get far in this company, you need to just ignore when leadership makes racist or slavery-related comments. They are insensitive to people who say ancestors may have actually been slaves. The result of that, when now nothing happened, okay? She was still employed. He had to quit because nothing was being done about her at Microsoft. When he went public with this, everyone wanted to jump up and do something about it. Phil Spencer comes out and says, this is going to be handled. He said that on a Friday. On a Monday, they shut down Mixer. That's how they handled it.
Right, and that's a good point to talk about the history of Microsoft, which I think in the gaming community is something that I frequently say people are really oblivious to, and I don't really understand why. But Satya Nadella has been head of Microsoft for about 8 years. If you've never worked at a very, very big corporation, cultures become ingrained for decades, right? It takes a very long time to shift cultures because you have people who will be employed there who existed before the start of the cultural change and who will continue to work there, right, for decades thereafter. I've worked at large corporations where I think I mentioned before, some company was bought out, like say General Electric, right? And the tendencies and penchant of the way people were brought up in that organization will pervade, right, in pockets throughout the larger organization for a very long time. Remember, Microsoft was a company that was built around the notion of stacked rankings. And so, during review periods, everyone was ranked top to bottom, and the people who were on the bottom were frequently just let go. And it drove that type of culture. Let's remember that Microsoft was a company that deliberately set up methods of down selects and direct competitions between teams where I think one of the things that's shown in some of these comments is a lot of people act like they've bought into the one Microsoft concept. And just again, if you're not working out in kind of big corporate America right now, literally every company, and I think BRAP you would corroborate this, literally every company in the last decade has done this one company name, right, campaign to try and rally everyone around, and sometimes it's valid and credible, and a lot of times it's not, right?
By the way, real quick, Game Logic, it is very difficult to implement because you have people that are tenured that are resistant to that change, and they're like, no, that's not how we've done it. Like, and I've had people say that. Well, I'm not doing that. That's not how we used to do it. What?
Right.
But go ahead, man. Yeah.
And what I'm trying to highlight at this point is that Microsoft is not like all one company, right? They have been very fractured. There are lots of different divisions. People work, very differently. There have been times in their history where the Windows team was. I'm
sorry. Can I just interrupt real quick? To your point, though, these big and I work for a very large company, very large. Each division, and we have multiple divisions in my organization, they even have their own internal culture, which is why we have tried to push towards culture one, because we want it to be seamless across the board. That's hard to do because you do have competing cultures that are different inside an organization where certain things are okay and other things are not. And they're not usually always the same, right? So I'm sorry, go ahead, man.
No, I mean, that's absolutely true. Like in my company, we have two offices that we're like 15 minutes away from one another. In one office, it's extremely laid back. People show up when you literally set your own schedule. As long as you work 8 hours, no one cares.
Are you at that office?
Into the office. Yeah.
I was only asking because the lunch was slow-mo things. I wasn't sure,
Yeah, right. I can, as long as I put in 8 hours, I can do what I want. But there's another office 15 minutes away. They gotta work 9 hours a day. There is no, if you're 1 minute late, it's a problem. It's a completely different culture. No one talks in that office. If you're talking higher than a whisper, the head director is wondering, what's your problem? Do we need to go into the meeting room and talk? Like it's that oppressive. So much so that when their employees come over to our office, they're just like, oh man, so good to be over here sometimes. Look, it's just, you guys are like, there are different cultures involved. It's not like people who have never worked for like a corporation before, a big company before, don't really kind of grasp that everything is the same all across the board. And me bringing up what happened with Mixer isn't to take a shot at Microsoft. It's to kind of get people in the mindset that like it happens there too. So whoever
So my
put
point,
in
and
charge,
that was my point. Taking those lists to as a grain of salt, by the way, for what you just mentioned.
yeah. It's like whoever Phil Spencer taps to try to get Activision in line might be like the woman that was running Mixer, or might be someone who may have a great reputation. And Phil may thought, man, I you know, like he's got results in Microsoft or whatever division he was in, but he may not have great leadership skills. And he goes over there, and then that lack of leadership shows his ugly head. Like, you just don't know, right? So it's just like it can't be just, oh well, it can't be any worse than where it was before. I mean, it can probably be worse. You know, you never know. It's just like we can't just automatically be like, well, they're gonna make things better, and why are you guys hating, and why are these politicians who don't know anything about gaming getting involved? It's their job to get involved.
And they may not know about video games, but they probably know more about all of the different parts of the dynamics that are at play here that have nothing to do with video games. Just to point out some of the things that it would be good, right, for people to go off and read and become more exposed to and understand better, right? Part of what's going on here is that part of the antitrust division's due diligence in looking at these mergers is that they are supposed to look at the impact to workers, and they are supposed to look at whether or not by effect of the merger you create a block of corporate influence that can be waged disproportionately across the labor market and cause the corporations to have more bargaining power over labor than they would normally want. And that can drive bad competitive behaviors, because you can do things like, hey, I'm gonna cap, right, the pay for these type of workers at a certain amount, right? That then has ripple effects across the industry, because the industry then says, well, why would I pay my workers, right, an amount when that company is capping and they're not paying any more, right? That then, right, creates a bad competitive situation. You have things like, you have concerns at Amazon, right, over labor relations and labor practices. You have concerns over at Facebook. I can't remember if it was because it's one of these guys that I have to deal with in different lanes across the industry, but it was either CSRA or some company, some IT company like that had the subcontract with Facebook, right, to do some of the policing of some of the content, right, and how horrific conditions were at the site and the location. That, again, was not a Facebook issue, right? Was all about how that subcontractor was handling its people. But again, like, conditions can be created like that are bad for workers. And what's kind of surprising in this whole thread was, again, the thing people were swimming uphill against. I'm like, hold on a second. So are you guys saying that the FTC and the Senate should show no regard for worker conditions in the tech industry? Because that's where you're lining up. And like,
that's basically it. And it's a flip flop of the argument, because if the shoe was on the other foot and they were talking about investigating the Bungie acquisition by Sony, they would be saying the opposite, because it's a whole I gotta fight for my flag thing, and not necessarily am I being consistent in the words that I'm speaking right now. Because half the time with these fanboys, they're not being consistent, like not ever being consistent. It's ridiculous. And if someone wants to say, hey, I think these reporters are bringing up all of these issues at Microsoft Studios, or Microsoft partnered studios like Moon, the stuff that was going on in Undead Labs, sure, you want to bring that stuff up and say, hey, maybe it's kind of a coincidence that all this stuff is coming up, labor kind of issues, when Microsoft is about to acquire Activision and labor kind of issues are the topic of the day. Sure, like that you know what, I can't say that doesn't look like potentially some of these outlets are jumping on the wave.
No, but I mean,
But at the same time, but at the same
Yeah.
time, they're not making it up.
exactly.
It's
And I
not
wouldn't
like
say,
it's coming out of thin air.
and I wouldn't say it's inappropriate, right? I mean, this
Yeah.
has been building and culminating for years and years and years. It's and again, these are industries that we work around in and adjacent to. And yeah, there are instances of companies where things are toxic. There are instances of companies. Look, if you've ever associated with companies who work out of Silicon Valley, they have a certain attitude, right? And they treat people a certain way. And when I've had instances where I've had to interface with them, I've had to like remind them and inform them that they're not dealing with a peer in their industry and that certain types of behaviors that we don't stand for. So, but I mean, so all these things have been coming to a head. All these bad behaviors have been coming out. All of these trends of where things are bad have been indicated, and it's high time, and it's not a bad idea for there to be some due diligence to kind of go through this with a fine tooth comb and ensure that things are gonna land in the right place. Again, it's not to say you shouldn't engage with senators. It's not to say that you shouldn't, if you insist on it, defend, right? If you literally think, and I to a certain extent do think that probably the best chance for a, low on the pole, tech worker at Activision, their best chance for their conditions to improve are probably for this acquisition to go through. I would put, if I were a worker at Activision, I would be banking on that more. Well, first of all, I would leave. But I would be banking on that much more so than I would be banking on any hope that Activision was going to find their own way through to positivity on their own. But it's all to say, take advantage of resources, get read up on the matter, and then comment, right? The new guidelines that the FTC is thinking about bringing into line for antitrust and anti-competition are in a memo that's out publicly on the internet that you can go view. I mean, the window for input to be accepted on that matter has been closed, but it's still not a bad thing to go read. So that's the FTC one. I think there's another one that's up for the Senate. What committees all of these senators are on and why a topic like this would fall in their purview are also up and available on the internet. And the history of antitrust and anti-competition and in certain on certain articles with direct respect to the tech industry are also available if you go to the Antitrust Division website and look at their history. And then finally, like the history of Microsoft and its antitrust litigation and settlement of their lawsuit back, like I said, between 1992 and 2001 is also available. All those things are available. All those things are things that people can go read. All of those things, great Scott, like even if somebody spent 5 minutes like looking at it, would allow people to comment on a much more informed basis than going out and reaching for a Glassdoor survey indicating that Microsoft is supposedly one of the top 10 places to work in the country.
Or using anecdotal evidence, by the way, which is bonkers to me.
Yeah, Rodimus with the $5 super chat says, so if FTC does start looking at employees' conditions during a merger, Sony is currently facing a class action for sexual harassment. Can it affect the Bungie merger? If that bill goes through, then yes, because the bill that actually amends what the FTC should be looking at, not just for like potential antitrust issues with a major acquisition or merger, but to also look at employee conditions and how that may make things worse for the company that is being acquired, then yeah, that would be absolutely something they should be looking at, because we got 8 sexual harassment claims against Sony right now.
Yeah. Yep.
That's ridiculous. Stuff like that should not be happening. And also, Bungie is not also pure and unsullied either, because they've had their fair share of issues as well. So yes, all that stuff's fair game, man.
Yeah. Any thoughts? Go ahead, Game Watcher.
It's fair game, but I would say my slanted view of it would be that I don't know that it would get as much scrutiny just because of scale.
Yeah. The amount of money, right? Yeah, the amount of money. Because the main thing is the whole antitrust thing. Does this create a unfair balance within the industry? You know, is this a bigger company throwing their money around to prevent competition kind of deal? Sony acquiring Bungie is is nowhere near as the same as it is with Microsoft acquiring Activision. Yet, if you're going to start looking at employee conditions and what's happening to the employees and their work experience, then yeah, like if those are we clearly see those are issues at Activision. And if you're wondering if Microsoft can make that better or worse, then you should be wondering the same thing about, is Sony going to make that better at Bungie or worse, considering their issues. So it's not something that's strictly just, hey, we're just going to look at Microsoft for this.
Yeah,
nobody else.
No, it's definitely fair game. Yeah.
And I would say don't, you know, for people who do want to observe this. I mean, look, it's been a lot of time like pushing back on people participating in this, but to be quite honest, like again, being a student of the industry, like this is a super interesting thing to watch and unfold, and there's tons of things that people can learn from watching this. Just like there were tons of things people could learn from watching the Samsung Apple lawsuits back in the day that I think was good for people to become exposed to. People should not put too little stock in the fact that, I mean, Microsoft, I'm trying to think about the other big five, Microsoft and Amazon among those big five are, maybe to a extent Google, right, are parts of the national industrial infrastructure, right? So there is, while Capitol Hill is going after those companies also hold a great deal of value. Like when you look at the fact that Microsoft, directly participated in, offensive cybersecurity, right, in pursuit of the, incidents going on in Ukraine, and the fact that they are a government contractor that's going to put a certain optic on them that, may be helpful or may be negative to the deal, depending on how you want to look at it. So that's part of the dynamic too, right? The country, quite frankly, runs on Windows to a certain extent, and I mean, to a certain extent, Linux is kind of a competitor to that, and maybe there's an argument that it's 50-50 now, but at the end of the day, like the country is highly dependent on Microsoft as a service provider and as a product provider, like just to make our country go, right? Whether that's good or bad, like they're not, I mean, we're dependent upon electricity, we're dependent upon shipbuilders, we're dependent upon lots of industrial factors, right? And Microsoft is kind of part of that machine, so that will play into this as well.
Yeah, that's a great point, Game Logic. I mean, but hey, B, I know you've been quiet, man. Do you have any thoughts on this, man? Is B there? Did we lose you, B? Oh, his mic's muted. All right. Maybe B stepped away then. All right. No, great points all around, gentlemen. I wanted to talk about this because, again, it'd be nice to see more informed discussions around these things and not just these knee-jerk reactions, these emotional responses. So, look, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap up the show. It's a little bit after 11 o'clock. BRAP needs to go to bed because BRAP has to get up early tomorrow morning. And but no, I want to thank everyone in the live chat for coming out and hanging out with us this evening. Please hit that like button if you haven't done so already, and appreciate all the super chats as well. And I want to give a big thank you to first want to give a big shout out to Eric Jackson and Gaming Forte couldn't be here this evening. But also want to give a big shout out to our guest, Game Logic. Game Logic is always a pleasure, man. It's nice having a rational conversation with someone as it relates to gaming. So thank you for that. It's a breath of fresh air.
Always glad to be on. I people can definitely differ with my opinions and perspectives. I don't hate on you for that. it's all just a matter of trying to provide information for people so that they can, then go off and make whatever decisions and choices and have whatever perspectives they choose to have.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So no, thank you again, Game Logic. We'll definitely have you back on again soon. Slow-mo, great to have you back, man. We missed you last week. What's going on with DPS tomorrow, sir?
DPS tomorrow will be on my YouTube channel with the homie Gaming Forte. We're gonna have some interesting topics to get through. Some a little different than what we had tonight, but definitely come check us out 9 p.m. Eastern again on my channel, and hope to see you all. Hope to see you all there.
No doubt. Please check out those two gentlemen tomorrow on Slow-Mo Backslaps channel, DPS podcast, and then B. I don't know if B back. Let me check. I gotta check Discord here. I think his mic is still muted. All right. So big shout out to B Money. I think he stepped away, but if you can hear us, B, always a pleasure, man. So on that note, hey, everyone, have a great weekend, by the way. Enjoy some time playing video games. A lot of great games coming out or that are out right now. My backlog is ridiculous. So hopefully I can get to some other games outside of Elden Ring. I need to take a little bit of an Elden Ring break. Because I'm on New Game Plus. I'm like, you know what? I got to step away. I got to do something else. So got to play some Destiny 2 with Game Logic last night. It was a lot of fun. Probably going to dive into Tiny Tina's Wonderlands. I need to get into that because I did enjoy what I played of it so far. So anyhow, on that note, everyone have a great weekend. Remember, hit that like button if you're new to the channel. Subscribe, hit the bell notification so you're alerted when we go live. We will see you next week. Actually, no. No BRAP next week. No. What's next week? The 13th? Yeah. No BRAP the 13th. And I think the following week, the 20th, I think Jeff Grubb might be joining us. So I'll keep you all posted on that. So, but yeah, no BRAP next week. But we'll see you the week after. We're out.